This year's trip to the Paiute Trail was amazing, as it always is. But after we'd been there for a little over a week, we were coming up on our last few days on the Paiute. And I issued TJ and Suzanne a challenge just to see if they were up for it. I thought, what if we leave Marysvale, we head west out on the O2 until we hit the O1, and we do the entire upper loop of the O1. Essentially go north on the O1, clockwise around the upper end of the loop, come all the way back down until we hit the O2 on the east side of Marysville, and bring the O2 back into town. Now in my mind and in the math and looking at the map, everything that I could figure out, this would be about 160 miles. Turned out to be a little bit longer than that. But I threw it out there to see if these two would bite, and eventually, yeah. Let's try it. Now, we haven't seen all of the O1 up there. I mean, I have seen the entire loop of the O1 except for a few sections up there at the north end. So, this was a challenge, yet it was also research. I wanted to fill in my map with these missing sections of the O1. And then also, there was a little project that I have on my mind for next year, and so I wanted to research that too while we were up there. So reluctantly, we all headed out bright and early in the morning. Now the problem is, it rained really, really hard the night before. Looking at all of the forecasts and everything else for the day, it seemed like it was done raining. There were still some clouds looming, but we were going to be playing up into some pretty high elevations pretty far from camp. It was a little bit of a risk. Suzanne kind of wanted to back out after she saw the rain and everything else, but in my mind they'd already committed, so it was time to go. So we pulled out of camp on a wet, cloudy morning, headed up the O2, going west out of Marysvale until we hit the O1, and here we go. This is the first of two 50-inch sections of the O1. There's this section of the Max Reed, and just a little bit north of here is another little 50-inch section that goes up out of Fremont Indian State Park. The rest of the O1 loop, as far as I am aware, is open to pretty much everything except for the very bottom end of the loop, which I believe is a 60-inch trail. But these two, like I said, are the only 50-inch sections of the entire loop that I am aware of. Now, if you own a machine that is not 50-inch, you will have to find another way around these two sections if you want to do the entire loop. And I know it's possible, but you'll have to map that all out on your own. Our object is to stay on the O1 all the way around. Generally, we always like to go up the Max Reed, not down. But, we're going clockwise around the loop, so we have to go down it to go this way, which is fine. I was a little concerned about the gate that comes up out of Fremont. Just with these new wheels and tires, I wanted to make sure that I fit through that gate. I was pretty confident that I would. But there's that gate, and then the 50-inch gate at the top of that section. I went through it a few years ago, and it was pretty tight back then. And so I thought, if I'm going to get turned around because I can't fit through any 50-inch gates, I want to do it here at the beginning of the day instead of going counterclockwise and coming up against those gates at the end of the day. Now check this out. Not long after being on the Max Reed, Susanna's driving. She's going to drive the first little leg, and I'm filming. And just as I go to pan off and get a view out the side, I missed it. I totally I just totally turned the camera. Then Suzanne freaks out, and as I turn the camera back, of course they're long gone. But yeah, how cool is that? That's just the odds. I mean, that's how things work. You know, if you don't get it on film, it doesn't happen. And sometimes cool things like that happen, and you just don't get it. I got a piece of it though.
There's two of them. Camera facing you on.
Section of the Max Reed Trail, and I say bottom because this is the downhill side. If you're looking at it on the map, this is the north end of that 50-inch section. I believe this section from here down to Fremont is still considered the Max Reed Trail. I don't think of it that way. I always think of the Max Reed Trail as that 50-inch section, but I think technically this still is the Max Reed that goes all the way down. There's a nice big trailhead down at the bottom, but from here we just continue downhill on the 01 until we get to Fremont. Once we get down here, we actually go under I-70 under the freeway. We're going to turn right, head east on Trail 76, which is this little paved road that goes in front of Fremont Indian State Park. I don't know, it's a mile, maybe. It's not even quite that far. Somewhere between a half a mile and a mile on this paved section before the 01 separates and goes back up north again. Now, this is one of the gates that I was a little worried about getting through. We've been through it before, but that was with the old wheels and tires. So I was a little worried about making it through this gate, and it turned out to be a non-issue. Now, this section of the 01 right here, again, it is a 50-inch section, but right here in the beginning, it is really, really windy, really narrow, fairly steep, and really rocky. It's a pretty fun little section of trail for sure, but yeah, you gotta pay attention. It winds back and forth for the first little bit, and after that it's just uphill. It's fairly steep, it's really rocky, and it's a really, really, really long climb. So I just had to stop right here so I could stop the trekking. This is the point where we leave the lower Paiute map, and now we're starting on the upper Paiute map. And we just happened to stop right here. That's looking back the way we came. Just wow. Up to here, we get to the 50-inch gate that I was really the most worried about. I didn't get it on film, I don't know why, but this last 50-inch gate up here, we went through it a few years ago with the old wheels and tires on the machine, and it seemed like it was pretty tight back then, but it seems to be a new gate now, and we went through it no problem. But this is where the 50-inch sections end and things start to open up and things get a little bit faster. Now, we knew this was going to be a long day, 160 plus miles and through some pretty tough stuff as you've seen so far. I mean, we knew there were going to be sections where we were going to be just kind of creeping along, but the idea from the start has been, go slow when we have to go slow and go fast when we can go fast. We have to try to make up time when we can. So yeah, now things get a little wider, things start to open up, we can go a little bit faster. It's still not smooth, it's kind of strange. You get up, everything's smooth, you're making really good time, and then you hit a rocky section, you're slowing down, and then the rocky section goes away, goes back to smooth again, speeding back up. There's a lot of that all through this whole top section of the 01. But yeah, we are through what I would consider the most difficult part of the day for sure. Now it's all just smooth sailing and scenery from here on out. Now as we come up here to the intersection of the 01 and the 06, I should point out, we had a few bailout points along the way. Now this 06, it goes north, goes over to Kanosh. We wouldn't want to go that way. But before this, we could have jumped off on the 10 and taken it down over to Joseph, and from there gone back home. We could have, a little further, we could have taken the 11 and it would come back to the 10 to Joseph. Or we could have taken the 11 over to Elsinore and up a little further, there's Trail 04 and that goes down to Richfield. So, depending on weather, depending on how we felt, depending on many things, we had a few points along the way that we could bail out. Now, once we passed that 04, we were committed to a pretty long section before we had another bailout point.
I go straight from the bank, gassing up the tank, cranking up the radio, playing old Hank. It ain't that long till I'm back at the pond. I'm pulling up the truck down at the dock. It's time to do some cruising, baby, get a little stuck. It's a Saturday joyride, Percy Beast is the spot. We're on a boat. We're feeling fine, drinking Tennessee whiskey, a big blue sky. We're going up, we're coming down. There's a party on the water, it's a hell of a time. We're on a boat, we're killing time. In our own honky tonk with a bottle of wine. We're going up, we're coming down. Cheers to feeling alright, it's a hell of a time.
Now, one thing I want you to pay attention to is just how diverse the terrain is up here. Aspens, pines, red cliffs, brown dirt, brown mountains. I mean, you name it. There's a little bit of everything up here, and it just changes quickly and dramatically as you go.
Yeah, we're chilling out here, ladies in the rear, their feet in the water, top disappears, drinking Malibu Patron or a beer in a cup. We all get to dance and I get to chance it, kissing that country girl, romancing a whole lot of love, bumping out of the bars. Yeah, we're on a boat, we're feeling fine, drinking Tennessee whiskey, a big blue sky. We're going up, we're coming down. Here's the feeling, alright. It's a hell of a time. We're on a boat, we're killing time in our own honky tonk. Meet the big blue sky, we live it up, we got it down. Here's the feeling, alright. It's a hell of a time. And I'm falling for a small town girl. So kiss me, darling, rock my world, rock my world, rock my world. Yeah, now it's a hell. We're on a boat, we're feeling fine, drinking Tennessee whiskey, a big blue sky. We're going up, we're coming down. There's a party on the water, it's a hell of a time. We're on a boat, we're killing time in our own honky tonk with a bottle of wine. We're going up, we're coming down. Cheers to feeling alright. It's a hell of a time, a hell of a time. It's a hell of a time. Oh, hell of a time.
Now here's where we drop down into Aurora. And now we're about to begin the section of the 01 that I have not seen. Now one year when we stayed in Richfield, we came up kind of northeast out of Richfield on Trail 70 to this point, got on the 01 and went west. So everything on the 01 we've seen so far, but this from here on out really for me is all new. Now once you get down into Aurora, the roads, well, the trail between Aurora and Salina, it's all paved roads. And so now this brings up another point to where if you have a Utah OHV sticker on your machine, you are allowed on these roads because they are technically trails. So as long as you stay on the trail / on the road and obey the speed limits, you'll notice through Aurora and Salina that, you know, they're kind of a designated ATV route through the towns. But, you know, you stay on the 01 and stay on the roads, obey the speed limits, and everything is fine. Yeah, there's several miles of pavement for a little while now. Now, we did stop and top off the fuel tanks there in Salina. We'd gone about 92 miles. You know, even if the loop ended up being 160 miles, it would have been just stupid to even push it to try to make it on a tank of fuel. And Salina was always the plan to stop and top off the tanks. It took about 5 gallons or so to top them back off. And yeah, and turned out to be about the halfway point when it was all said and done. Like I say, 92 miles to Salina. We had stopped just before we dropped into town and had lunch, and we were good to go. And we didn't know at the time, but now looking back, everything from this point was quite a bit faster. The roads were a lot smoother, not a lot of gnarly stuff like there was up above Richfield and all that up there. You know, things had smoothed out quite a bit. So this last half of the ride was not going to take as long as the first half of the ride. But yeah, we just continue on the 01 out of Salina and off into what's new territory for us. 10 or so miles out of Salina heading south on the 01 is what I would consider pretty typical high Utah desert type of terrain. But just like everything else on the Paiute Trail, keep going a little bit longer and then scenery starts to change again. And as we kind of skirt to come back up into the mountains, you can see the trees off into the distance and things are starting to turn yet again. And we go through this little section, come back out on, again, what I would say is just typical high Utah desert down on the flats. But yeah, the one thing I've always said about the Paiute is if you don't like the terrain or whatever you're in, just keep going a little bit longer and everything is going to change. The Paiute Trail just keeps giving and giving. I love this place. This section right here, this is about the point where we switch from the north end of the Paiute map back down to the south end of the Paiute map. Still in territory we've never seen. At this point, working our way down to Can Am. Now, I should point out about now, start watching the clouds. Things start to take a little turn. And there's a few gates in this section, just like any other place. You know, if you come up on a gate that's closed, close it behind you. If you come along a gate that's open, leave it open. A few of those through here, but not a big deal. And as we roll into Can Am, there is the Can Am Cafe, which, by the way, great place to eat. If you're in the area, swing on by, get yourself something to eat. It's a diner's typical diner comfort food, but everything there is great, and they almost always have fresh pie. To make the stop at the Can Am Cafe for sure. But this brings us back into now. We're back in familiar territory. We have seen, from Can Am on in on the 01, so back into familiar territory. Now you see the clouds, you see what I was talking about. And we're heading up and out of town, and we are basically headed right towards them. Now I have really good cell service right here, so I can pull up the weather app and I can actually see the radar. And this storm is literally over the section of mountains that we are headed to. So I make the executive decision to pull over here at this trailhead / restroom and wait it out. So we sat and ate some snacks, drank some drinks, took the dog for a walk, and just watched the storm pass by. It was awesome.
Live a little, flip the page, give it some more, getting out of my way. I was hiding, bulletproof, forever waiting. Then came you. I thought I was what I've been told. I thought I was. I thought I was what I've been told. I thought I was. I was picking up the pieces of yesteryear's life, in over my head, trying to figure out. I was going through changes, where to begin, when a mountain moving revelation came marching in. I thought I was what I've been told. I thought I was. I thought I was what I've been told. I thought I was. Been a long time, baby. Had an all-time low. Stick with me, maybe. Don't let me go. Crashed out, landed on cotton candy in your arms and survived. I'm still a disaster, rock bottom and below. I'm yours for the asking. Where you go, I go. I thought I was what I've been told. I thought I was. I thought I was what I've been told. I thought I was.
Finally make it back to the O2. We're going to take it west back into Marysville. The upper loop of the O1 has been done, and we're just the final stretch back into town. But as you can see, we are losing daylight quickly, and man, we got some really amazing colors with that sun going down. I mean, some of that, oh my gosh. You know, I was sitting here editing this video and looking at that footage. It just takes me back to, I mean, we were tired. We had a long day. And luckily, you know, Suzanne drove probably about half of it, and maybe even a little more than half of it, and I drove the other half. Poor TJ, he drove the whole thing by himself in his machine. And I just think about how exhausted, you know, by this point, how exhausted we were. We were ready to just finish this thing up, you know, challenge accepted, challenge done, get back to camp. Find something to eat, find a cold beer to drink, and but man, what a day. I will never forget this day for the misery that it caused, you know, but this is the longest day ride we have ever done. Certainly the longest day ride on the Paiute that we have ever done. We ended up, according to Avenza, we did 184.05 miles. Now, according to TJ's trip meter, it was 183.4. So somewhere between there, somewhere between 183.5 and 184. Avenza's probably the most accurate. We did take a few wrong turns, but didn't go very far. I did mention we fueled up topped off in Salina. That was around 5 gallons. When we went to go for our next ride the next morning, we topped off the tanks again, and seemed like it was around 4.2 gallons or something. We didn't use near as much fuel that second half, just because you saw it was just big open roads. But it took us, from the time we left camp to the time we got back to camp, it was 12 hours, almost exactly 12 hours. And I did reset my engine hour trip meter thing, and we had 10 hours and 10 minutes of engine time on this trip. So that's 10 hours of the machine moving, 10 hours of driving. We stopped when we had to. We had lunch. We stopped and got fuel. We stopped for probably 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes to watch that storm go by. Yeah, this was a long, full, amazing, rewarding, thank God it's over with adventure. Yeah, as we roll back into town, it's flat ass dark, and we're just making our way. Like I says, we are looking for food and beer and a shower at this point. Just wanted to thank you all for joining me along this day. This video kind of means a lot to me. This is probably the last one of this year that I'm gonna do. I mean, we shot some video on the Paiute this year, but nothing like we normally do. I just shot some clips here and there. I wanted to go down there and enjoy my vacation, so I didn't film a lot. So this is really probably pretty much it for our Paiute trip this year, and I really wanted to share this day with you. It meant a lot to all of us, and thanks for watching, and we will see y'all on the trail.